listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Hey there, friend, and welcome to episode 140 here on the podcast. Today, we're doing something a little different. I've created a few podcast playlists for you, depending on where you are on your homeschooling journey. Lists of episodes that I recommend just for you, so that you can go listen to episodes that speak to you right where you are right now. I was recently perusing comments in a homeschooling Facebook group, and someone asked for recommendations of podcasts or blogs or websites to follow for inspiration and ideas. I loved seeing the Art of Homeschooling podcast recommended over and over again. This is just so touching to me. One comment in particular caught my eye. The poster wrote, "It's worth starting at the beginning and listening to every episode about the Art of Homeschooling podcast." So heartwarming to see this little podcast that I started back in 2019 help so many homeschoolers. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be creating a new episode every week for coming up on 4 years and see us reach 85,000 downloads and counting. It's a joy and an honor to speak to you all every single week. So I thought it would be helpful to have a look back at all the episodes so far and make some recommendations to you. I decided to come up with categories of interest to homeschoolers and then recommend 5 or so episodes within each category. And that's exactly what I've done. So here are the categories: beginning homeschoolers, new to Waldorf, weaving in the lively arts, homeschooling mindset, homeschool curriculum, and parenting. I want to mention here that for this episode, the show notes are going to be particularly valuable to you. That's where you can find out a little bit more about some of the episodes, and you can simply click to listen. Just a little noteworthy detail is that you can go to any of the episodes here on the podcast anytime you want to by using the URL artofhomeschooling.com/episode blank, and then fill in the blank with the number of the episode you're looking for. So for this episode, for example, you'll find the show notes at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 140. Okay, here we go. Beginning homeschoolers. It's a bit daunting to begin homeschooling. I remember that feeling. Even for me as a trained classroom teacher, I found homeschooling to be, well, a lot. Not only are we with our children all day, every day, but we also have those moments when self-doubt takes our breath away and times when we feel like imposters. For me, the best way to handle these emotions was to realize that classroom teachers feel this way too some days, and that we actually have lots and lots of time with our children to allow the learning to unfold gradually. I've recorded a lot of episodes on this subject, and so here are just a few that I want to recommend to you today. Episode 3, yes, all the way back to almost the beginning of the podcast, I recorded an episode called Relax into Your Homeschool Rhythm. Rhythm is all about organizing the activities of your homeschooling day to discover how, so that you can discover how to create a rhythm that can help you stay focused, feel more productive, and yes, even relaxed. This is the most popular episode on the Art of Homeschooling podcast so far, with over 1,000 downloads. Episode 48, What I Wish I'd Known When We Started Homeschooling. In this episode, I share my reflections of all of our years of homeschooling, along with 10 things that I wish I had known before we started our homeschooling journey in my family. Other episodes include Episode 40, Getting Started with Homeschooling. Episode 42, My Favorite Books for Homeschooling. Episode 45, 5 Things to Consider as you start homeschooling. Episode 119, Choosing to Homeschool. And episode 127, Homeschool Lesson Planning. You'll find all of these in the show notes for this episode, where, as I said, you can just click the link and go have a listen. Next up is new to Waldorf. Those of you who are new to this, are you one of those who's new to the Waldorf approach? I know this can feel like a lot of moving pieces and parts sometimes. I want you to keep in mind, though, that the core of it all is the idea for us to look at the children before us, look at our children, and bring them what they need. One of the ways that we do this is simply by watching and observing them. That's really the starting point with Waldorf. Believe me, you can take your time learning all the unique aspects of Waldorf over time. Just remember to focus on one thing at a time. And here are some podcast episodes that I think can help. Episode 43, The Top 10 Lessons from Steiner's 1919 Seminar Course. I suggest you start here with these top 10 lessons. The seminar course are the lectures that Rudolf Steiner gave to the very first Waldorf teachers in that first school. Steiner prepared those teachers in just 2 weeks' time, and I love taking those lessons and applying them to homeschooling. Lessons like preparation can be brief, and main lesson blocks and books make for efficient teaching and learning. So go check out this enlightening episode. Next is episode 79, Child Development and Neuroscience. The Waldorf approach was created over 100 years ago, right? Steiner had a lot of theories and beliefs about how children develop and learn best. And now, in contemporary times, now that we have new technologies such as MRI brain imaging and scientists studying the workings of the human brain, we have more sophisticated ways of exploring how the brain works and develops. And what is so amazing to me is that today's neuroscientific discoveries match Steiner's theories in many, many ways. Tune in to this episode to explore the ways that hands-on holistic homeschooling really works, because it helps children's brains develop in healthy ways. That's why hands-on learning works so well. Understanding how the brain develops can really help us make important decisions in our home schools, but also can help us to feel more confident in the hands-on approaches that we're using with our children. Next up is episode 126, Thinking, Feeling, Willing, 3 Ways Children Learn. You may have heard the phrase thinking, feeling, willing to describe the Waldorf approach. When we consider these ways of learning through our thinking, through our emotions, through doing and activity, we also want to consider the age and developmental stage of the child, right? So listen in to how Steiner described 3 stages of child development and how these 3 ways children learn apply to each stage. Here are a few other episodes you might want to check out if you're new to the Waldorf approach. Episode 36, Holistic Hands-on Homeschooling, the Guiding Principles. Episode 60, Why Choose the Waldorf Approach to Homeschooling. And episode 90, block learning is fantastic for homeschooling. And here's why. Our next category is weaving in the lively arts. The lively arts are one of the best parts, one of my favorite parts of Waldorf education. I've seen the magic in my own children and so many other children. As Steiner said, the arts bring us joy as human beings and help make the learning more memorable. Starting with stories and weaving in movement, music, poetry, drama, painting, drawing, and modeling can really help bring your lessons alive in amazing ways. Check out these episodes to hear more about how to bring lively arts to your homeschool lessons. Episode 16 is Stories Make Great Teachers. In this episode, I talk with my dear friend and colleague, Allison Manzer, sharing our love of books with you. Two homeschooling moms talking together about how you might use one book in homeschooling, your homeschooling lessons. This is our book hearth approach, describing how you can build an entire lesson block around just one book. And there is a sample block plan for you to download in the show notes of this episode. Okay, next, episode 139, the top 5 things children gain from doing art. The arts are an integral part of the Waldorf approach and other holistic approaches. This episode describes what children gain from doing art, how to incorporate the arts, and why. Tune in for examples of what it looks like to incorporate the arts into your lessons. Other episodes you might want to check out include episode 23, Weaving the Lively Arts into Our Lessons, episode 27, Movement Games and Activities for Homeschoolers, where I talk with Brian Wolf of Waldorf-ish, and episode 124, Bring on the Singing. And the next category is Homeschooling Mindset. Our mindset, or our ways of thinking about ourselves, our children, and all we do really are at the heart of our daily lives. I could talk about this all day, mostly because I've seen such miracles unfold in my own life as I've worked on more acceptance, more grace for myself. Here are some Art of Homeschooling podcasts that I recommend to help you find more joy and peace. Episode 128, What to Do When You Feel Stuck in Homeschooling. Welcome to the episode for homeschoolers who feel stuck. Oh, that just might be all of us, right? All of us at one time or another feel like we're not making progress. Tune into this conversation about how to get unstuck, where I offer 5 ways that you can find peace that is available to you right now. Episode 137, Start Where You Are. If you ever think you should be further along than you are in your homeschooling journey, then listen to this episode, where we dive into an important topic that often holds homeschoolers back: accepting right where you are instead of wishing you were somewhere else. Check out the 3 guiding principles to remind you that wherever you are on your homeschooling path, you're right where you need to be. And here are a few other episodes to check out. Episode 46, How to Face Your Homeschooling Fears. Episode 62, 3 Paths to Self-Development as the Homeschool Parent. Episode 75, Dear Overwhelmed Homeschool Parent. And episode 104, Let Go of the Guilt. And our last category is Homeschool Curriculum. So often, homeschoolers ask me about curriculum. What curriculum should I buy? What curriculum did you use? What curriculum is the best? And while I know that we all wish there was one perfect curriculum we could just purchase that would give us everything we need, it doesn't exist. Nor should it, honestly, because our children are unique and we need to find what works for each of them and create our own curriculum to meet them where they are. Fun fact, when I started homeschooling, inspired by the Waldorf approach, there was not any curriculum that I could purchase because the belief was a fixed curriculum was not a good idea. These days, there are almost too many curriculum options, but the principle remains the same. We want to customize the curriculum or create our own to meet our children right where they are and help each of them make progress in their learning. Here are some episodes that can help you do this. Episode 88, can we homeschool without a curriculum? Let's face it, our relationship with curriculum is complicated. So listen to this episode for some in-depth discovery all about curriculum and how we use it in our homeschools. Episode 103, the 3 stages of the Waldorf curriculum. Listen in as I share with you a simplified perspective on what we teach our children at different stages of their development. As homeschoolers and teachers, we usually start with what to teach in each grade, right? We look at their grade level and look at what is typically taught at that stage. But in this episode, we look instead at dividing the elementary years into just 3 chunks, 3 stages, rather than 8 grades. And this way of looking at what we're teaching can be really freeing and help you simplify your homeschooling. Episode 120 is how to make the Waldorf curriculum more homeschool friendly. As homeschoolers, looking at what Waldorf teachers do in a classroom doesn't always translate directly to our home environment. So how are homeschoolers supposed to figure this out? It's almost like translating a foreign language to me. Home is not school. In this episode, which is full of lots of rich ideas and encouragement for how to translate the Waldorf method to the homeschool setting, I offer ways to make the Waldorf curriculum more homeschool friendly so that you can create your Waldorf-inspired homeschool, the one that's just right for you and your family. Here are a few other episodes for you to check out, and you will find links to all of these in the show notes. Episode 51, there's no such thing as an open and go curriculum. And episode 54, how to customize your curriculum to invite more engagement. And now this really is the last category, even though I said that last time. So the last category is parenting. Oh my gosh, because we are parents first, right? And we are parents always. Our last category is all about parenting, which is such a big job and also so constant. For me, I didn't have great role models in this area, so I needed all the help I could get when I became a parent. Here are some episodes I've recorded that can help you on your parenting journey. Episode 100, Reflections of a Homeschool Mom 26 years later. In this episode, I reflect back on 26 years of both homeschooling and parenting. I share the 3 distinct qualities that homeschooling fosters and what can be gained from being a part of a homeschooling family for so many years, what our children gain. Those 3 qualities are loyalty, acceptance, and self-sufficiency. Listen in for insights to encourage you on your parenting and homeschooling journey. Episode 129, Why Children Resist and How Understanding the 4 Temperaments Can Help. Children often resist our direction, our lessons, and our suggestions for all kinds of reasons. And understanding the 4 temperaments or personality types can really help us accept our children for who they are and learn to work with them instead of against them. Here are a few more episodes to help you on your parenting journey. Episode 64, Mealtime Blessings for Families. Episode 78, How to Resolve Conflict Quickly in Your Family. Episode 86, Watching Our Children Grow Up. Episode 92, Not Having All the Answers for Kids. And episode 114, Find Your Daily Anchor Points. There you have it, your personalized podcast playlists focusing on beginning homeschoolers, those of you new to Waldorf, weaving in the lively arts, homeschooling mindset, homeschool curriculum, and parenting. Don't forget to head over to the show notes for this episode to find a list of all of the episodes I've mentioned here within each category and links that you can go listen in. You can find the show notes at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 140. And lastly, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for listening in. This podcast wouldn't be where it is today without you, dear listener, and I am forever grateful. All the best to you on your homeschooling journey, and let me know how I can help. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.